Fantasy PD presents An Evening with Matt Nick.
Good evening, listeners. Thank you for joining us tonight on An Evening with Matt Nick. I'm here with Matt Nick himself. Matt, thanks for joining. How are you tonight?
Bergh, I'm doing well. How are you doing tonight?
Great. Thanks for asking. The listeners have a lot of questions for you. Many people in the league want to know more about you. So I think tonight will be a great night to hear your thoughts on many of these topics. To get right into things, you lost a big marquee matchup last week. A lot of people want to know, why didn't you start Brian Robinson in that matchup?
I didn't start Brian Robinson Jr. because I didn't think he had the dog in him. But when I went back and I looked at the stats, I realized I should have started him because he's developing a pattern. For 2 weeks, he's absolute ass. And then he'll put up a double-digit score, and then he's bad for 2 more weeks. So I'm thinking going forward, I'm going to take a look at what I can do to follow this schedule he's set for himself and start him. But there's a possibility Brian Robinson's on the team soon anymore, so I won't be worrying about him. I'm hoping.
Do you have some big trades lined up?
We got some big trades. I think there's a guy in the trading block. People are calling him QB2 in fantasy right now. Jalen Hurts is on the trading block right now. We have a young superstar rookie making his way up the roster, potential keeper, who I think is going to replace Jalen Hurts. I'm going to get some value for Jalen and really improve my starting roster.
That's very interesting. I wasn't expecting to hear that tonight. Any trades or anything you want to mention to the listeners about possible trades?
No, I tried to trade with Hebert, but there's a reason he's like almost in last place. So it kind of speaks for himself. He didn't want to trade with me. So hey, what can you do? And I'm trying to work a trade with one guy. He's a hard businessman. He's done a lot of work in his life, kicking out single mothers and kind of ruining the lives of many. And he's tough to do business with, but I'm hoping we can get a deal done.
Mm-hmm. I will respect that person's privacy and not ask who it was, but it sounds like a tough person to work with for sure. A lot of people
almost
think
impossible.
True. A lot of people are thinking you get kind of lucky in fantasy football the last 2 years. You drafted Jalen Hurts because you're an Eagles fan. He got you to the playoffs last year. He did it for you again this year. You've had almost no injuries. You haven't had to make any moves this year, and you're in third place. What do you have to say about that?
I think that sometimes that's just the way it goes. I mean, it's unfortunate how big of a part luck plays in a matchup. But I mean, in another league, I'm third in points, and I'm in eighth place. And in this league, I don't know where I'm lying in points, but I'm in third. I mean, sometimes you got to go with the punches. Sometimes you don't need. I haven't made moves because I would say I haven't needed to. I haven't had any huge injuries. And I think I've made a couple acquisitions that have been big. Dalton Schultz, I think, is going to be a good tight end. Maybe replaces Dallas Goedert if Dallas Goedert can't play. And I think I got a nice value pick in Breece Hall. So,
do you regret any of the moves you've made this year, whether draft picks, trades you did or didn't make?
Yeah, I have some regrets. I'll be honest. Derrick Henry, probably not who I should have picked. He's played well, but I don't think he's played to where he was. I also think that drafting Gabe Davis at any point was the dumbest thing I've ever done. You can't start him. He sits in your bench. He scores 8 points a week, and then he scores 45, and then you still can't start him. So
he couldn't pull out the win for you this last week.
No, he couldn't.
Who do you think's going to win?
Yeah.
Who do you think's going to win the league?
Percentages are just overall my opinion.
Your opinion. That's what we're here for.
It's not going to be Chris because this team kind of sucks. I think it's going to be me, and I think a good shot it could be Shaw.
You think Shaw is your biggest competition in the league?
I think the Zay boys are a competitive team, and I see him, pulling out, at the end of the year with a good squad.
Okay, very nice. How have you been lately? How was your Halloween? What'd you dress as this year?
Sorry, I mean the lava cake.
Yeah, take your time. Actually,
This
don't
year
take your time. We only have a 40-minute Zoom meeting.
this year I had two outfits or two costumes. For one weekend, I was the Loch Ness Monster. The costume was large and polyester and flammable. And then the other weekend, I was Johnny Cash, the Man in Black.
Very nice. I
So
would love to see pictures of both.
I can do that for you, Berg. What were you this Halloween?
I dressed as Gene Simmons from Kiss.
I saw that. It was spooky.
Yeah, that is one way to describe it. It was fun. How was the lava cake?
Tasty, delicious, and I could tell handmade by an artisan baker.
Mhm. Thank you to all the local Domino's bakers out there for delivering every time. Speaking of food, what is your favorite Thanksgiving food?
I think it's gonna have to be mashed potatoes with gravy.
Mine too. Gravy's a must, but that's always the biggest proportion of my plate.
Berg, it's good to see you're a man of fellow intellect.
Yes, of course. Are you staying in the Scranton or whatever city you live in for Thanksgiving?
No, I'll actually be venturing south with a night's vacation with my family and one extra
That's right.
passenger.
I did know that. Speaking of Dan, he said that you're not very good at pickleball. You have anything to say about that?
I've never played pickleball, but Dan's built like a country club athlete, and should have no problem dominating him.
I can't wait to hear how that goes. You've known Dan a long time. What was he
Mhm.
like as a child? A lot of us would really like to know. I think that's the biggest question here today.
A little annoying. Um, little, good guy. I was friends with him. In high school, he was a little bit of a menace. Um, I don't want to get too deep into the stories, but an overall good guy. I mean, you know him now. He hasn't changed much. He's still kind of annoying. And just yeah, I mean, you put an 18-year-old body on him, he's the same guy he is now.
Do you have any one story that sticks out from Dan Miller in your childhood?
Hmm. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say these things on the air.
Any do you have any stories you could say on the air? I'd love to hear those other ones another time.
No, one time Dan really pissed me off outside of a bar and I shoved him to the ground and I cut his head open.
Nice.
And that should really show you what kind of character he is to drive a man like me built on kindness to anger.
I know. I think a lot of us have gotten to that point at times with Dan and would all love to shove him to the pavement. But glad you got the opportunity. Matt, Nick, can you describe your perfect day?
I think my perfect day, my work start time's about 8, so I wake up about 7:50.
You're
Roll
working
into
on
the
your
office.
perfect day.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I meant perfect average. Okay. Perfect day overall. I wake up 10:30. My mom's made me a bacon, egg, and cheese breakfast sandwich and a coffee. I eat that. I check fantasy. It's Sunday. Perfect day, obviously. Actually, no, perfect day Saturday, but they've moved the NFL to Saturday. I've checked fantasy. I watch the 1 o'clock games. I work out. I go drive my car around. I then go to a nice Taco Bell dinner. I'm thinking, or no, nice Taco Bell lunch for football, maybe 2 Crunchwrap Supremes, a couple soft tacos, some nachos, and a Baja Blast. Finish out the day, get a nice dinner. I'm thinking Middle Eastern food, some shawarma, maybe halal. And then I think after that, I go to the local watering hole and probably black out on vodka sodas.
Wow. That does sound like a perfect day. You actually already answered my next question. It was going to be what's your Taco Bell order, and you said it there for me.
So my usual order, well, pre obesity, well, up on the road to obesity, my order was 1 Crunchwrap Supreme, 2 beef quesadillas, and 1 order of chips and cheese, and then a Baja Blast. Now it is only 1 Crunchwrap Supreme and a water.
It's a small meal. Tell me about a beef
Great.
quesarito. I have not heard of that. Is that still on the menu?
No, that's been discontinued off the menu. To the protest of many, it was just queso, a meat, cheese, and sour cream in a burrito roll.
Nice.
It was amazing.
My
No
favorite's the
veg.
beefy crunch. No vegetables is
Oh,
big.
that's
Yeah.
delicious.
hmm
Yeah, I don't need that.
I need beef and cheese. That's about it.
Protein and saturated fats, something that really gets the gout activated.
A lot of people this week were discussing managerial rankings in our leagues. You came in all over the place. People were pretty split on you. Who would you say the best manager in this league is?
I think it's me
Hmm.
because I think I say that, and it sounds like a humble brag, but I think it's because I made so few moves this year that my original moves were so well thought out and so perfect that I'm so like they were everything I've done as this far has been so efficient. I haven't had to work as hard as Dan and call people 25 times a day just to be in like eighth place. I think I make very efficient few moves. I think that's what makes me a really good manager. I make a big decision and I stick with it, and that's how my team gets to be in the place it's at in the scoreboard.
When I look at your team, though, I see a healthy team. Everyone, it seems like, has had to deal with injuries this year, but your top few picks are all have been healthier than expected. Derrick Henry and Brees Hall. No one people were avoiding because of injury. You say that strategy. Is that do you still stand by that?
I just think I picked my dogs and they came to play. I mean, we
Fair
all
enough.
saw what Brees Hall was capable of doing last year. I saw his draft stock drop, and I figured it ain't gonna happen again. It could have, and I look like an idiot, but it didn't. So I look like a genius.
Fair
I'm
enough.
looking at the standings right now. I made 7 moves. I'm in fourth place. Dan Miller's made 21 moves, and he's in ninth.
Shows a lot. Moves you're
So
making are impactful moves.
exactly. I've actually made the least moves in the league. So kind of impressive when you put it that way.
So if you're the best manager in the league, who would you say is the best beside you, and who's the worst?
Worst is easy. It's got to be Hebert. Um, he's like a terrorist to fantasy football. Um, he basically tried to start the entire Packers lineup and then found out that Jordan Love couldn't throw a football. Um, and in points for, he is now Milk has been unlucky. Milk's team is decent. He has good points for. He actually has almost 200 more points than Hebert does, but Hebert has scored the least amount of points in the league by, I believe, a substantial margin by 60. He has 800 points compared to Toys 930. The second best manager in the league is I gotta go Nick. Everything Nick
Wow.
seems to do, I really think is great.
Like missing the playoffs the first 2 years and probably again for a third
Yep.
year. Interesting.
I didn't know that was the case. I might be reevaluating.
All right. You can
I'm gonna no. I'm gonna stay with that. I think the move Nick made this year for Hawk was great. Um, but also I believe he might have traded Alvin Kamara to Dan,
he did.
um, which is now weighing on me to move him back down actually. So I think probably second best manager after myself. It's not Nick anymore now I think about it. Let's see who else. I know it's tough to say. I want to give some people some shout outs, but I think Jake McManus is a good manager. I think everyone clowned him at the beginning of the year, and his team is looking very good now. So I'll give him a shout out. I'm not saying he's the second best, but I think he's done a lot with what he has.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's been a pretty good manager.
Hmm.
What would you say is more likely to happen? You to win a buckle in this league this year, or the Eagles to win
Hmm.
the Super Bowl Lombardi Trophy?
Eagles win the Super Bowl.
Wow. I assume you think both are going to happen, though.
Hmm. I think
Who
so.
who are you most worried about in the NFL?
I mean, naturally the Chiefs. They're playing them this week though, so we should get a good precursor. I think if the Eagles beat the Chiefs this year, excuse me, this matchup, I think it'll really put the team on a direct route to the Super Bowl. I think you lose twice to the Chiefs, once in the Super Bowl, once in the regular season, and then you're going into a third game possibly in the Super Bowl against them. That's a really bad mental state to be in. So I think if the Eagles pull out a win against the Chiefs this week, I think it sets them on a really good path.
Do you have a score prediction for this weekend?
31-28 Eagles.
Do you think anyone in this league could beat you in a foot race? We know at least one person can.
I kind of think Chris is the only one who might be able to. I've already beaten Shaw in a foot race. I've beaten Cole in the standings. I'm just looking at the scoreboard here. Jake McManus is a big fan of me, and I don't think he thinks he could beat me. I could beat Milk, no doubt. I could beat Hebert, no doubt. Toy, no doubt. Dan, smoke him. Pete, Nick, and Chris are probably my three biggest adversaries. But I think now Pete's a father. He's not gonna be able to have the same explosiveness he used to have. So I think I got Pete. But Nick is sneaky athletic. So I think I got Chris by a margin. I think Nick might be able to get me. He's very lanky.
I'd love to test it. I'd love to have everyone in the league get a 40 time and see where we rank. I truly do not know how a lot of people would fall.
Bergh, I think I'd beat you.
Do you run a lot? Like, how'd you get so fast?
Almost never. I was just born. I was born like a big cat with big bursts of speed. But after that, I need to then rest for an extended period of time.
Good to know.
So
if you don't run in your free time, what are your hobbies? What do you do with all your extra time?
Well, because I'm such a workaholic, it's hard to find extra time in the day. But I do have a couple hobbies. I like to ski. It's very good for the outdoors. I like to fix my cars and work on them and drive them. I also like to play video games, work on computers. I consider myself a film critic amateurly, and I'm also really in love with traveling. So I think those 6 or 7 small side hobbies really take up the limited amount of free time I have.
Yeah, it sounds like you're a busy guy. What would you say your favorite movie of all time is?
I'm a real sucker, and this is a recency bias because I just watched it, but Grand Budapest Hotel.
I still haven't seen it. It's on my list.
Excellent movie.
I'll think of you when I watch it.
You should think of me other times as well.
We'll see. Have you ever eaten an olive?
What color?
Any, just an olive.
Yes.
Are there some colors you haven't eaten, green or black?
No, I've eaten all of them.
Okay, I figured. Just wondering. I heard some people hadn't tried it until this year. Do you think a house is real estate?
No, it's not.
So if you own a house, you do not own real estate.
No, because if you own a house, that's owning a chains. Real estate is something that should make you money. A house is just chaining you to a location. That's why I don't think it's real estate.
But
Real estate's like an apartment building, a condo building, a laundromat. A house is just a mortgage to me.
what happens when you pay it off and it accrues value? Is that real estate at that point?
No, maintenance costs. Unless someone else is paying your mortgage and they're not hustling for you, it's not real estate.
Okay. Well, now I've got some more serious questions, Matt. Where were you on January 6th?
I kind of need to plead the fifth on that one.
All right.
Wait, this year?
The January 6th.
Oh, yeah, I gotta plead the fifth. I was probably doing something important though.
I'm sure you were. We'll let the viewers decide what they have to think about that. Do you have any book recommendations for our viewers?
I'm borderline illiterate. But there's two books I really like. The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. And I've also really liked reading the old breed stories from Omaha. Excuse me, wow, that's not what it is. It's the old breed by E.B. Sledge. It's what they based the Pacific on.
Interesting. I have not read either of those books. I'll have to check them out. And I just
They're
have
great.
I have one final question for you, Matt Nick.
Hmm.
How many times have you watched this year's draft order video?
I watched it a couple times, and then I followed her. I followed her on Instagram, and then she started flexing a Pet Tech Philippe on Instagram, and I unfollowed her and I blocked the video. I, I saw that and I said, I can't believe we contributed to this. We have made a monster, and I'm now no longer a fan of Punani Annie.
Sorry to hear that. That was all
She
I had. Oh, go ahead. Do you have anything else to say about her?
was gonna say no. She should be sorry that I'm not a fan anymore. She called people in her songs taking money from all of these creeps. It's kind of fucked up.
I know 12 people that she would call a creep then.
Facts.
How was the lava cake? Real final
The lava
question.
cake was tremendous. Delicious, nice, juicy, chocolatey core. Amazing. Now,
Yeah.
if we want to get on one last topic, my Domino's order is always one order of cheesy bread, one order of lava cakes. And I'm usually inebriated
No
when I do
pizza?
that. Nah, not for me.
Were you inebriated this time when you got that lava cake? Got it.
Pizza has too many vegetables on it. Cheesy bread's just cheese and bread.
All right. Did you have anything else you want the listeners, viewers to know?
About myself, no. I think I'm a pretty open book. And if you don't know an answer about me, you probably don't need to know it anyway.
Fair enough. Well, thank you, Matt Nick. Thank you for being that open book for us today. This was a very in-depth interview with you. I appreciate the honesty you had on most questions. And I look forward to competing against you the rest of the year. Best of luck.
Best of luck to you too, Berg. It's been a tremendous interview. Thank you.
You're welcome.